Hi everybody, and welcome to Mike Nierychlo Online, sharing my love for people, wine of course, food, and all things made passionately. Now today's show, I've got an extraordinary guest with us. This is Maria Jose. Maria, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Now Maria is from, you may have heard of them, Viña Tondonia or Lopez De Heredia, but there's a longer name than that. How do you say it?
It is the name of our company. Well, it's still my last name because it's the name of my great-grandfather, Rafael Lopez De Heredia, and the name of the most important vineyard. So, I mean, it's like, I know, it's very long, even for Spanish standards. Rafael Lopez De Heredia, Viña Tondonia. It's a very long name.
Yeah, so that's the long version of the name. So you'll recognize them as Viña Tondonia or Lopez De Heredia. Now, you guys have been around for what, over 130 years? You started in 1877 by your great-grandfather?
Exactly, 133 years
133 years.
And in fact, my great-grandfather even came to the Rioja. He was born in Chile, and he came to the Rioja 2 years before. But we named the foundation of the company in 1877, now 133 years.
You've been around for a time. Now what excites me so much about Viña Tondonia is they fill the epitome of the romantic opinion of wine. They've been making wine in a very old world way since they started. They still do the same winemaking techniques you guys did when Rafael started the winery originally, right?
Yes, exactly the same. And well, the fact that we're here has proved that we were like in the right path, as we say. We always have been faithful to what our great-grandfather started. Well, this might sound a bit odd, but do realize, still my sister says that the spirit of my great-grandfather is in our underground cellars. Because I didn't met my great-grandfather, but I met my grandfather for many years. When my grandfather died, he was 96. I was 18 years old, and my grandfather transmitted us the love for what we were doing, for what he was doing, for the vineyards, for the land, and which at the same time it was transmitted by his father. And this is something that is very much in the spirit of our family. We talk non-stop. My father keeps on reminding me every day, you have to complete the dream and the work of his grandpa. So I mean, it's like, it's very much in the air when we are working at home.
Well, if your great-grandfather is anything like your current father is, it sounds like they're strong-willed men who, he's 82, 83 years old, still in the winery, pushing away?
Definitely. a strong, let's put it this way, because they are also strong personalities. My great-grandfather, I feel like I know him because we still have at home every single handwritten letter since 1871 when he came to Spain. And I mean, through the letters, was extraordinary person, very exigent to himself and very exigent to others. But also the second generation, my grandfather and his brothers and sisters were very strong personalities, strong temperament, and so is my father.
And so it's been a family-run operation all the way through. And what's really neat, and I'm going to try to emphasize this as much as possible, this is one of the few wineries, I would say, left on the planet that is practicing the same techniques they were always practicing, and that is this family run through time, which is so neat and so just stuck on that technique. And I mean, there's a saying here in Canada that we say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And you guys have stayed true to that.
Definitely, that's very important for us. I think the fact that we are family owned is very important. But we're not the only one. There are in the wine industry. There are companies who have gone through 25 generations or more. But it is true that being very faithful to traditions is something that is somehow part of our personality. Many people think we are crazy.
Yeah.
There are people who love what we do and respect it and understand it, and there are people who respect it but don't understand it. There are people who really don't understand it at all, so there has to be a little bit of everything.
Oh, of course. I mean, there's everything with every other style of winemaking as well. Now, your winemaking is very organic still. And I mean, your whites are made in a very old world way where they're still made similar to your reds as well, right? They're aged for a really long time in oak, which is unheard of in the New World.
Yes, well, there is one thing. The wine industry can produce many types of wines. Nowadays, I mean, an aged wine has been a great wine when it was young. I mean, a good wine comes from good grapes. And if the grapes are good, what the winemaker has to try to do at home is don't destroy them. Something that can happen. It's very difficult to make out of bad grapes a great wine, but sadly it's very easy to do out of very good grapes a bad wine. You can also destroy them. But the grapes are important, and Rioja has the good luck, I think, of being a very rural area on which lots of wine growers are still nowadays attached to traditions, and they work hard to make very natural products. Now suddenly it's become very popular, organic and biodynamic movements, but I would like to explain to the people and the consumers that even without talking about it, many vine growers have been very faithful to following nature, understanding and respecting. Not everybody has been against nature. And wine is a food product, and wine comes from grapes, and it's impossible to age a wine for many years if you don't have great grapes. And great grapes only come from the land and from the soil, from nature, but the man has always tried to train them on a way that if you can make it even greater, the best.
Instead of letting the grapes or the wine reflect the terroir that they're trying to produce.
Exactly. Many movements, I mean, all these organic movements go to, are a criticism of the people who have not been respectful. And from that point of view, they should exist. We should really, in order to love the world, we really need to understand the world. In order to love nature, we need to understand nature, but people will have to grow more land in order to really understand.
And one thing Maria said off camera that I really appreciated was winemaker versus vine maker. She doesn't really necessarily believe in winemaking so much as vine making and letting the wine reflect the vines that you've grown.
Oh yes, if you ask, I remember when people used to ask questions to my father and they talked to him as a winemaker, he always complained, I am not a winemaker, I'm a vine maker. Because for us that's very important. It's the obvious, but sometimes the wine industry has been away from what it is vine growing, and it's impossible to make great high quality elegant wine without really growing the land. We describe ourselves much more winemakers than winemakers. My father even has invented the Spanish word viñólogo, because the enologo, I mean the winemakers we call enologo, and he says if I have to be something, I am a viñólogo, which is a word that doesn't exist.
Okay, what would describe that word for us? What would it mean?
As a winemaker, it's like it's a person
yeah.
who treats vines, not treats wine.
Oh, okay, I understand. Now through your generations of family and winemaking, you're one of the first to actually attend winemaking school, just to kind of broaden your knowledge of winemaking. Tell us about that experience.
Well, for me it was very important to study winemaking because I really needed to see a filter, or I needed to see the new technology and machines that we don't use at home. But the experience was extraordinary, and I learned a lot about these new winemaking techniques, but I also part of the fun is that because I already had been making before, had made wine and have seen it since I was a kid, I have to teach my class how to make rosé like ours, how to make a white wine like ours, and well, imagine how to arrange barrels, or you find very few wineries nowadays who have a coopery. And it's not only that many people don't know in the wine industry how to build a barrel or how to restore a barrel, but how to fix a barrel whenever you use a barrel for 10 years. So I have to talk to my class about many things that we do that you don't find nowadays.
Yeah, well, you seldom find nowadays people who even use a barrel for 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? So they don't need to know why to fix a barrel after 10 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or even imagine that we still harvest with the same poplar tree wood baskets, and we have to restore them every year. We have to fix them every year. They historically were made of poplar tree because they weigh less, and they were carried by the horses, and they bring yeast inside. And this is very important because we ferment our wines with indigenous yeast. The yeast every year is more lazy to jump from the soil to the skin of the grapes because too many people go to sadly they go to the vineyards with the cars, or the use in excess of the tractors and the machinery in the vineyards made the yeast been more lazy. And we have preserved the yeast also inside our baskets for harvesting and inside our old fermentation vats, and this is very important. But you cannot harvest in these baskets if you don't know how to build them, how to restore them, and how to maintain them. This is very important for us.
That's really cool. I mean, even utilizing things down to the harvesting basket, which we just use big plastic buckets in most places, but utilizing the harvesting baskets for a purpose in your winemaking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just really cool anyway.
Yeah,
so you mentioned...
but the use of plastic baskets nowadays is like the modern version of our uses of baskets. For many years, lots of people didn't understood why we still harvest with these same baskets and why we have an advance. But the conical size of the wood baskets are the equivalent. They hold around 70 to 80 kilos, but they are equivalent to 30 kilos. And not many people understand why nowadays the wine industry has gone back to a small size. It's obvious that wine is made with the fruit, and like at home we need to receive the fruit healthy and crush and touch, because otherwise it goes rotten very fast. This is the same reason why in the wineries the grapes have to arrive very healthy. Why? Because in the skin of the grapes you have the minerals, the vitamins, the proteins, the yeast, but also the bacteria. If the grapes arrive crushed, the bacteria can start to attack, and it's impossible to make a high quality fruity focused wine with that. In order, no matter how the year and the climate has been, it's very important to receive the grapes and crush. And if you receive them in a big container, this is not guaranteed. In a small container, this is more guaranteed. So somehow the boxes are the version of how to bring grapes and crush to the winery. We didn't need it to introduce them because we already were doing it 133 years ago.
There you go, exactly. For 133 years, the family's been doing it, we just keep doing it.
Exactly.
You mentioned you have a cooperage. You have your own cooperage at your winery, which you don't hear of that often either.
Yeah.
Tell us about your cooperage and your oak program.
Yeah, for us, historically, all the wineries used to have their own cooperies, and in the Rioja, in Andalusia, in France, and it's very, very important for us because of the restoration. We make the wines with vocation to age. For that, we give them a long aging in the barrel to all our wines so that the wine can bottle age many years afterwards, and therefore for that we need to restore barrels. So we have the coopers at home, and they've been trained fathers, and there are several generations. So it's very important not only that we know how to dry the oak, how to give the shape to each one of the stakes, how to build the new barrels, but most importantly how to restore old barrels is very, very important for us. So we do everything at home. We have our own grill for bending the barrels, and there are very few coopers who like to restore barrels. It's much more easy and nicer to build the new ones.
For sure.
We use always American oak because in general American oak has given the personality to our wines, although we believe the personality in a wine should remain to the terroir and to the fruit. The oak should be always in the second level. That's why we age the barrels and we restore them.
Okay. Yeah, so your barrels are constantly in old barrels, so they're more neutral. They're not adding huge oak
We
flavor to them.
want the barrel to become a place where the wine obtains gentle stabilization, but never an excess of barrel flavor.
Yeah, and aging that long term in a barrel allows small amounts of micro-oxidization as well.
All our winery is designed, our winery was designed and built by my great-grandfather. He never finished. Half of the original project is unfinished, but it's designed underground so that the humidity levels are very, very high, and there is no evaporation, there is no alcohol volatilization, and therefore we can do very, very long periods of aging. Do realize that, for example, these two wines here have been aged 6 years in the barrel, both of them, and these are our Reserva wines. Our Gran Reserva can be aged 8, 9, or 10 years. For that, we not only need to have the good conditions underground in the cellar, but also we need to have the proper barrels. Because with new barrels we will have more oxidation, more evaporation, and also more lignins, more tannins, more barrel flavor. Wine should never taste or smell to oak, no matter how finesse the oak has. One should smell to the fruit, to wine, really.
Absolutely. Well, what's so neat, this is a white wine. And how long was this white wine? 6 years aged in oak?
Well, it's aged 6 years.
Yeah.
It's made with two grape varieties, Viura, 90% and 10% Malvasia, but it has more than 10 years of bottle aging. And in the bottle, the wine evolves in the color, but also obtains riches, rounder, more persistent aromas, and also it has persistency in aromas in the mouth. It gets softer, it obtains more finesse, and obtains a richer and persistency of aromas. The persistency of aromas in a wine is like in a perfume. It's a sign of quality.
And tell us about the grape Viera. You don't hear about that grape that often anymore.
Well, exactly. This is very important because not all the wines can age for many, many years if they don't come from a great fruit. Viura is called as well as Macabeo in Spain, and Viura is a grape variety that has a very good capability of aging without showing the oxidation and remaining fresh. Has high acidity levels, and after so many years, like this wine, for example, is an 18-year-old wine, and still is young, fresh. It's a 1992 vintage.
And it is. It's bright and fresh. It's got a lot of fruit coming through. It's got nice oxidative flavors to it, not over the top. They just give it extra elegance, kind of a more savoriness, right? More briny is another word I like to use.
Yeah, and it's a wine that never should be drunk too cold because then you don't appreciate the richness of the aromas. And should be drunk with almost the same type of food that you have with a red wine. This wine originally was made for meat, for white meat, for turkey, for chicken, for pork, but also needs consistency of food. It's very fresh, it's very low in alcohol content, but because the aromas are very, very rich, many people will think it's almost a sweet type of wine.
Yeah, I definitely give it that. It's got some very interesting, almost like almond paste or something like that, and butterscotch,
Yes.
but there's so much fruit coming through still too. Now, it's an 18-year-old wine. I'm going to show you the bottle here. It's from 92. This is their current release, and you can go purchase this one today at the BC liquor store if you like. 18 years old, and it's under cork still. A lot of people would disagree with that. Tell us about, you mentioned your grandfather or great-grandfather he researched corks and screw cap a long time ago.
Yes, in 1909, he really drank a lot of Perrier water, and he had letters to his sons talking about the screw cap, and he contacted Perrier House where did they make the screw cap, because he wanted to try it in the wine, because also they have to face the problems of cork that occasionally and still nowadays give us problems, and and we haven't been able to solve. But after years of experimenting and investigation, why are we still using cork? Because wine needs to breathe, and we design somehow, and we treat the grapes from the very beginning with vocation to age, obtaining third-generation flavors. And if you introduce a wine into a screw cap, you're going to drink it very fast, then it works. But if you made the wine to be a store, aging and obtaining richer aromas for after many years in the bottle, the screw cap wouldn't work, because it does not allow the wine to breathe, and therefore the wines will have reduced aromas till a stage that won't be properly drinkable. So that's why still nobody has invented a solution for wines who are designed for almost wine collectors, for really being stored for many years and being drunk after many years, remaining young but having a lot of nuances of third generation of aromas.
Wow, and this red wine just leaps out of the glass at me still too. And which vintage is this? This is your 2001, right?
2001 is a baby for us.
It's definitely a baby for you.
It's a wine that still has been aged for 6 years. It's a wine that is made with Tempranillo, mostly Tempranillo, like 70%. We use in the Rioja, especially because we are in Rioja Alta, we use a small percentage of Garnacho, because the Garnacho help us to balance the alcohol content, and then we use another 2 grape varieties in very small percentage, Mazuelo. Mazuelo is the same grape variety as Carignan and Graciano, and these 2 we use them in a small percentage to balance the color, to have deeper color, and also to give freshness and acidity, to maintain the acidity high, because again, this wine, even when it's the 2001 vintage, so already is it's a 9-year-old wine, but it's been made also to age for many years in the bottle. 2001 was a very good vintage in Rioja. We will be releasing Gran Reserva in the future of this wine, but already you can tell in the nose how this wine maintains a lot of fruit and is very, very fresh. Yeah. And this wine was made for all type of meat or fish, but it's a wine that has low alcohol content, very easy to drink, has finesse, has softness. Again, does not dominate the oak, but it has a smoke and toast aromas.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the mouth. It's very, very dry.
Yeah, very dry, very full of flavor. Beautiful wine to drink. I could sip on this for hours. And like you said, tons of aging potential. It can just keep going and going. I find so many neat, like you said, smoke. The fruit just leaps through. Still like cherry skin, maraschino cherry. I find a really neat kind of fig flavor in it too that I really like.
Yeah, the color we describe it as ruby. Ruby, ruby, velvety. Yep. Still, it hasn't started to have the terracotta color. Yep. Many people get very surprised by the colors of our wines because they are what we describe as open, abiertos. I mean, they are not thick, dark. It's the reason why in Spanish we don't call the red wines red. We don't call them rojo. We don't call them black, negros. We call them tintos. Because historically they were white wines who were tinted. You know, all the red wines used to have a small percentage of white grapes in order to obtain color stability long term. And it's a practice that we still do at home because this wine is designed to keep on aging many years in the bottle, but remaining fresh.
Absolutely. This wine is both of these are so full of different layers and depth of character, and they just keep going. Their length is beautiful, and you can really taste that you're tasting terroir. You're not just, the minerality is beautiful in them too. You're not just tasting bright, fresh fruit. You're tasting character.
Well, these wines are not filtered. They only, what we do is whenever we have a lot of patience, we do rackings, we move the wine from one barrel to the other, and then at the end of the process we fine with egg white. If we can not even fine, we don't fine, because for us it's very important that the wine is just clean naturally, with patience. And this was the rule of 100 years ago. I mean, it's like everything that we do that the wine industry is like very surprised nowadays was the only way of making wine 100 years ago. Our only decision has been just not change it. Like if you say, if it works, if the result is good, if the wines can talk by themselves, why should you do otherwise?
Why should you change it? Yeah, absolutely. And what would you pair this red wine with? This would go exceptional with lamb or something like that.
Yes. All our wines, I mean, it's like in Spain we don't use highly seasoned food, but this wine was made for any type of meat or fish included. Although the wines go with much more like fish cooked raw, like sushi, and highly seasoned. The reds can go with any type of meat or fish.
Yeah. What's so neat about these wines is
with cheese, always with cheese.
Course
I mean,
cheese.
it's like because the easy drink wine. I always think that no matter how drinking is social, and you drink with friends, and sometimes you are affected by French opinions, and this has made that many people can have access to some of our bottles. But when a wine has a lot to talk, sometimes when you are reading, I mean, you sit down at home reading a good book with a little bit of cheese, and you can drink the whole bottle alone.
Yeah, it's one thing that I like to continue to try to say on the show and to my friends and everything. We can read and analyze and think about wine for so long, but really all that really matters is a nice bottle of wine and some nice friends and family to share it with. That's really what it comes down to. That's what it's all. That's why you probably love wine. That's probably why you're
wine is
wine.
done as a complement to the food, and wine is what help us being social, and definitely part of the wine world is to be able to share it with people. That's for sure. That's part of the enjoyment. And sometimes, and you learn with other people's opinions, with the description. I'm always sometimes I'm against describing wines, because from the moment you describe them, you limit them. But it is true that by describing them, people pay more attention on them, and then we'll be able to enjoy them better.
Absolutely.
But we have to always kill our brain. Wine is a matter of your senses. Wine should be drunk with your sense, and with your nose, and with your. You have to train that much more than your brain, and memorize what a wine tastes to, and how do I have to feel. Every person has to discover in wine what the wine has to talk about, and what the wine has to tell, and one has to be sometimes self-trained.
Absolutely. We'll let you have a look at the red Rioja bottle here as well. Like I said, located in the Rioja. Now you guys, on the back of a lot of your bottles, have this diploma.
We have a diploma. The diploma is very important for us, because the diploma nowadays is just like is the rule for the Rioja. When you say that you're in Rioja and you use a stamp of Rioja, means the idea of the terroir. Why should you make wine in Rioja, not somewhere else? In many wine areas, I mean, now you can grow vines in many areas, but not every area has the natural vocation for making great wines, and Rioja has it. It has proved it, has been discovered. It was discovered by French people. They taught us how to make wine, but also we are capable to make wines that can compete with wines of high exceptional quality worldwide. We are in existence before the Rioja appellation was born. Rioja Dio is from 1924. We are from 1877.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Dio was born as a protection of what the first people at that time have been making. And the first people have been making a style of wine that at that time they thought it was world famous. And it was like a matter of protection. And the matter of protection was like guaranteeing that the grapes were coming 100% from the Rioja and not others, and guaranteeing many vine growing practice, grape varieties, and also wine making techniques. And the diploma was given at a time to my father because he was the only one who could prove that in our house they never brought grapes from outside. There were certain times on which, because of the diseases, the Rioja authorized wineries to buy grapes from outside the Rioja. And we never did in our family because it was very important to be faithful to the beliefs, to what had given the name of Rioja. And that's why we were given the diploma. And we are the only winery that has this diploma. And it's signed by the first director of the first regulator council that exists in Rioja.
So if you're looking for a winery that really displays truth in their bottle, these are the guys you need to seek out. There's nothing but truth behind their label. Truth in the terroir, truth in the fruit, truth in the winemaking practices through history, making an excellent product.
They will have to come to Rioja and
Absolutely,
prove it.
come to Rioja and visit Maria. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Maria?
Well, I would like to thank you all for your appreciation. You can really have the best wine in the world, you can have the best vines, but if there is nobody who really discover it, love it, and wants to spread the word, we wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are here because many people have access not to change, and many people have appreciate all the effort that is behind a bottle of wine. So I just only have to wish that you enjoy very much our wines and all the people in here in Canada, and that we will try to work very hard to maintain this style for the people who really love it and appreciate it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your product, and I hope everybody out there, when they get a bottle of this, you can find the appreciation in here. It may not be a wine that everybody's accustomed to, but once you learn this wine, you will really appreciate it. It's the effort that goes into it.
It's different.
Yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, Maria. I appreciate it very much. Here is to your continued success.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for watching today. And remember, wine, depretentiosized.